The Trust was actually born on the 2nd of June 2014. The Trust has grown exponentially to where we are now with 11,000 pupils and a plethora of different schools. The key part of our Trust is about that equity of value for all young people.
So we have children in special schools with really complex needs, right the way through to primary, secondary and sixth form. And the iPad gave us something that actually all of those students could benefit from using.
Something that I didn't anticipate that has been probably the biggest impact that we've had is for students that have special educational needs. So the accessibility around changing the overlays on the iPad, the colour of the screen, for example, for any student that's visually impaired, to make the font size bigger.
We've got some children who have got special educational needs who were working on their phonetical knowledge. They were using accessibility to have a text read to them. So during that time they could focus on comprehension at age-related expectations. And now what we're finding is children are more motivated to read, and we saw a significant improvement in reading ages. So for one pupil over a 3-month period, their reading age went up by 3.2 years. It has raised the experiences for disadvantaged pupils. That cultural capital barrier is minimising.
I use it all the time in PE. Any non-participants will take their iPad out so they can take photos or videos of a friend, have a split screen and find a photo or a video on YouTube of the same skill and compare it to how it should look, and then they become the coach. So it makes my job a bit easier as well, but it also gets them involved in the skill even though they're not physically participating.
Before iPads, I would say the students were passive in their learning, but the iPads have really engaged subjects in a way that didn't happen previously. Geography, for example, is a real strength where students could experience Google Maps to look at geographical locations which they couldn't interact with through a textbook. So using the iPads has been absolutely incredible and opened up a whole new world of understanding. Being able to airdrop resources to students, which has saved a fortune on photocopying.
Saving around about £4,000 per year on photocopying bills, which is excellent.
Lesson start time, so the ability and the time it takes from walking into a classroom to the lesson being functional and going has gone down from 6 minutes before we put the iPads in. It's now less than 1, saving 5 minutes of lesson time per lesson per teacher, which means overall teachers get 36 hours a year of teaching time back. By having this personalised device, you haven't got the need for large-scale computer rooms, so that saves you a lot of money on electricity there, and you're not charging devices because the kids are coming in with them charged. And actually when you work out what it would cost every year for those iPads, it's actually less than their photocopying budget and their electricity, which means we're actually saving them money by going with iPads. For the Trust, we've gone from less than 100 devices to over 6,000 devices in about 8 months. What that's meant is very rapid deployment. We needed an MDM solution to really manage the way the Trust is going to use its devices. To be honest with you, there was no other choice other than Jamf. And Jamf School is set up with us so that our apps are all in there, and each school has a profile, an individual background that's specific to that school. If we get a problem, you can be 3 sites over, 20 miles outside of town and still deal with it. The other useful thing with Jamf is the way it allows us to pull information from our MRS systems. And it means things like student enrolments are automatic. It really does make for a seamless working partnership.
The diversity, equality and inclusion agenda is massively supported by technology. I've observed in this school here at Kidsgrove a Year 10 lesson that's been historically a challenge for some of the boys in the class, and with an iPad in their hand and some ownership of the learning, so the teacher saying this is what I want you to achieve by the end of it, there are several routes through that you can take. How might you use your device to help you do that? And then the students all of a sudden feeling empowered to lead their own learning and having massive success because of this piece of technology. And the teachers will be in lessons and say to the children, how do I do this? Or they'll say, sir or miss, can you try it like this? Or I've done it like this. So the children are really leading the way now. Our schools that were more reluctant, let's say, or just didn't have the resources at the time to jump on board are the ones banging on the door now saying, we want to be part of this, how can we do it? And how can we work together to achieve that?
My remit is around children with special educational needs, so I'd really like us to think about in the future how school days might look differently, or school weeks, or how the year of learning might look differently for those young people. Some of them don't fit into that traditional model of schooling anyway, so we should be brave through the use of technology and our success to date to be able to push back on what people might view as traditional models, so we can choose to make this even better than it is.